Well, not as cute as the one before. But I am very happy to be here. Uh, Pacific is a special place for me, and you'll learn why. And I am happy that there are many students here, because this is what this university is about. It's not about us adults, but about our students. And I am who I am because I came to Pacific. And I believe in this, and it still continues to impact on who I am. And I want to share with you what Pacific has done to me and through me in different places. And I would like to share with you, because this is a seminar on combining in practical things together, counterintuitive. And this is what we learn on this campus. And I will tell you today about two problems in my country, Paraguay, and in the rest of the world, and two solutions. How to combine adolescent girls who are chronically poor and unemployed to create wealth, to create environmental protection, and to eliminate poverty. Girls. Well, as I mentioned, I came from Paraguay to Stockton. And here I was told that it was okay to study public administration and poetry in the same major. So people at the English department thought I was crazy taking poetics, and people at the School of Business and Public Administration thought it was strange that in all my electives I would take poetry. And I used to saying, if we are going to change the world, where is the magic going to come from? How do we incorporate T.S. Eliot and Robert Frost to Keynes? How do you explain the inner dome of heaven or explain the road not taken if it is not through poetry? And here I had the best academic program in the world, but also a very good engagement with the community. I was very active with student government here. I was student body president for a freak accident here, the electorate. And I also worked at City Hall at the budget office. Little did I know that that would help me. And there is a person in the audience here in the public whom I met way back. In fact, there are 2 or 3, I think, when I was a student. And they all came back to me very recently. One is a student advisee. I was a student advisor when I was a junior. And there was a freshman from the community. So where are you? So she, sorry, I keep apologizing, I didn't. And her niece, Carelli Cabral, was in the middle of the jungle in Paraguay this summer as a global ambassador from the University of the Pacific. So where's Carelli? There's Carelli. And we were cooking at home one weekend, and we were reading poetry and cooking, just like this professor said. And he says, this reminds me of my Pacific professor of poetry, Gil Shedler. And she said, oh, he's my mom's friend because we are neighbors. So we called Stockton and said, hey, you should be here. So the Pacific life is still part of my life. And I used to have a beard. I thought it was cool, And then I got married. I fell in love with a beautiful girl from Turlock. And I told her, let's move to Paraguay. And she said, not if we don't get married. And so we got married and at the Morris Chapel. And we went to Paraguay. And she has a life sentence there. It's been 29 years. And we have a beautiful family. But this is where she went. The size of California, only 6 million people. But it was still the Cold War, and there were military dictatorships all over Latin America. So all the reform that I studied in my class of public administration was zero. So I could not find work because my family was blacklisted, like many, many others in that time. So this is when social entrepreneurship came to my life, is be entrepreneurial about reform. And I started, because I didn't have any choice, the country's first microfinance program, the country's first development NGO, financial literacy program, and also the first nature conservation program. And interestingly enough, the worst nightmare of Latin American history under military dictatorship allowed the growth of social entrepreneurship and civil society in Latin America. So all the social programs that were not allowed to flourish because of government flourished in civil society. So you have excellent programs, and all these people are in government right now, 30 years later. The best social programs of Brazil, of Mexico, of Peru, of Argentina, of Chile were developed because there was exclusion and dictatorship. So this is my country today. It's a modernizing country. We grew at 50% last year, one of the fastest growing countries in the world, because the Chinese are eating more pork. Sorry, I'm not politically correct, so I don't know if that is, but it's happening. The Chinese are eating more pork, they're demanding more soybean, we are growing the soybean, and guess what we do when we grow soybean? We clear the land. So we deforest. This is all previous forest. And also, we are good at beef production. In fact, the Argentines almost had a fit the other day when the Financial Times said that Paraguayan beef was better than Argentine beef. It's a difficult medicine to swallow for my neighbors and cousins. So most people are living in cities right now, modern cities. I was mayor of my capital city from 96 to 2001, and I used the zero-based budgeting techniques that they use here in the city of Stockton. So, and I also learned about Proposition 13 here. So I don't know if I learned a lot, but I experienced a lot of things. And my country is now a democratic. We've had our Arab Springs, but a longer time ago. And when I was mayor, there was a coup attempt, and we took the city garbage trucks that you see there in red and the yellow Caterpillar tractors to crash into the tanks that were going to take over Congress. And so that was an interesting reality check for the military. You can fight people, but not garbage trucks. And so it's I was going to call the Arabs saying, you know, I have a couple of ideas for you. And but the problem is our countries are modernizing, our countries are growing, our countries are expanding, but there's a hardcore poverty problem in Paraguay and in Latin America, in Mexico, in Ecuador, in Brazil. These people here cannot latch on to the growth. It is a serious problem. And I think that most societies have. And the problem in this typical rural family is that the third to the left will go on to college, but the little girls to the right will be selected not to go to school. And that is the typical discrimination against women. And the problem is that young, uneducated woman will become a young mother. She will get pregnant from a young boy. The young boy will not be able to support the family. He will move to the city. She will be left alone. She will have to raise a family. She, who has been uneducated on purpose by society, will have all the burden. Of course, she will have another man. Later on in her life, she will have another baby from a different man, and it will get complicated. So how do we work with adolescent girls? How do we crack this code that is the most complicated, yet the best investment in the world? You invest in an adolescent girl, you invest in a family and in a village. So, in the forest reserve that we've been working on for 20 years, we have been having a nightmare that I would like to share with you. This is one of the regions of Paraguay, the state of Canindeyú. Paraguay is a bilingual country, by the way. It's the only Latin American bilingual country. We're more bilingual than Canada even. We speak the Indian language and Spanish. And this is the Atlantic forest of Latin or South America. It is the forest that comes from the coast to the inland, okay? This ecoregion is second only to the Amazons. Everybody pays attention to the Amazon, but this is the same process, although this is disappearing very fast, and I'd like to share this with you. So it takes about a fourth of Paraguay, and this was my country in 1945, in 1968, in 1976, in 1985, in 1991, in 1997, in 2005, in 2010. And that little only remaining chunk of green is the forest that we saved. And we saved it because it was in private hands, managed with good governance. It was not under government protection. We raised the money. We protected it. And now, little did we know 20 years ago that we would have done this thing. So we have been working with the reserve, but now we realize that if you cannot work with a forest, you have to work with the biosphere that surrounds it, the basin, where all the rivers flow. This is the natural thing because the forest itself is too vulnerable. You need to support it around. And what happens when you move in environmental protection from saving a forest to incorporating a larger point of view of incorporating a biosphere perspective? Something strange happens. People show up. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with people. I'm interested in saving the environment. Sorry, people show up. No, but I don't want to deal with people because people, they want your land, they want firewood, the poor people, or soybean fields, the rich people. But they all want the same forest. So how can we make it more economically viable to make money out of a standing tree than in a falling tree? That is where we have to use our multidisciplinary brains. And so for a long time, we followed the typical approach of we hired 17 armed guards, and they are protecting the forest and don't let poachers in, hunters in, loggers in, and marijuana growers. Dangerous stuff. And in this part of the world, we have other kinds of people. Well, we're patrolling the forest. Doesn't this look pretty dangerous place? This is what it's like. And we have native Indians there that are also defending their ancestral lands with bows and arrows. Desperate, because they only live to hunt, but there's no more armadillos left. So this creates a very, very serious problem. And the problem is, as I was mentioning, if you only deal with defending a forest, you are dealt with this young, chronically unemployed young woman living in the biosphere. She needs to cut down the logs. It's morally correct for her to do it because she needs to survive and save her family. So the logic here is very, very cruel, right? And she's washing her clothes in a river that is used by animals and by humans, and it's contaminated, and she's sick in every single indicator. And we are in a region of massive school dropouts. And the Minister of Education in my country says, Martin, the problem is that the students come from very poor households. No wonder. They're starving at home. That's why they drop out. And I said, maybe. What if your paradigm is false? What if we as a society are wrong and kids do not drop out of school because they are poor, but because the schools are really bad? It's no longer about access to education, just providing schools. It's about the quality of the education. Because from the schools that we are creating, we have zero dropout. We have huge waiting lists. People are not dumb. people drop out of boring schools. And so, together with the Nike Foundation, we developed the idea of creating an investment, a social investment in girls, to invest in girls. And how do you create alternatives for teenage pregnancy? Safe spaces and social capital and confidence and voice to chronically unemployed girls. So this is what we're trying to do, turning a problem into an opportunity that will create 100% employability upon graduation through 100% market-based curriculum, through 100% self-sufficiency. What if a school, instead of charging money, paid you money to learn? Would you have dropouts? What if the school didn't even need on government subsidies or on charity? Is that possible? Can education make money, or does it have to cost money? Maybe. Microfinance has taught us that the poor can receive a $40 loan, use it, and return it with interest. So does the same logic apply to education? So we are doing the learning by doing, and we have added 2 things to our curriculum. Not because we're bright, but because we needed to. We added the selling part and the making money part. And oh, this is what's fun. It's like if in this cooking class that we just heard of, you cook in class, you learn how to cook, and then, together with a professor, you go out and sell your slow food. And the money from the cooking pays his salary. That's a lot of food, right? Good. So we have an intensive academic curriculum and practical training and relevancy, right? This is how to make money out of this thing. And it really is an arithmetic table. And once the math teachers get it, we're all happier. It is all about input-output food. Okay? Your output of meat has to be more than the input of food that you buy. Hello? And schools don't teach that, we do. And the same thing with chicken. They only grow for 45 days. So if you keep them alive 50 days, those 5 days, you just lost all the money that they ate. If a young adolescent girl learns that in classroom and then in practice and then sees the effect in the market, and then 3 years later, she'll never be poor. It's fun. How many of you would like to take a week off and drive a tractor around campus? So we have a week of class and a week of practice, a week of class and a week of practice, a week of class for 3 years. Just when it's about to begin boring in class, you go out and take care of one of the 15 businesses on campus. Small hotel, the grocery store, the pigs, the chicken, everything. It's real. It's not the lab of the spiders, but similar. And so we build specific skills and knowledge. Specific skills and knowledge, not just in general. No, specific. How do you make jam, produce it, process it, jar it, put the tag, price it, weigh it, interview the supermarket manager, get a contract, deliver, collect, invest? How do you do that if you're a 17-year-old girl? With your professor, whose interest and incentive is to sell the jam produced in the food industry class. But, of course, the professor of School of Business and Math, they're all engaged there because they all get a commission for how much jam we're going to sell. This is not child labor. It is protected by the curriculum. These are all competency-based, okay? And actually, it's more inefficient to do it with students than with and so, few paid staff, okay? But one of the majors is gastronomy, food production. So all the students learn how to cook. And we're making money out of the problem. reforestation. So the girls learn how to grow and sell little trees, and so we're never going to have unemployed trained reforesters, right? And so from teaching entrepreneurship to the poorest of the poor, not grow what is necessarily in season or just because it's that month that you have to. No, you go to the supermarket. You go to the supermarket and interview the manager. I don't know how to interview. Learn how to interview a manager. Dress up. Present yourself. Go and introduce. Hello, my name is Maria Gonzalez, and I would like to share with you some free-range chicken, organic eggs, and this is the cost. Yeah, it's more expensive. It may look more expensive, but take a look at advantage A, advantage B, and advantage C. I'll tell you a real anecdote. We had one of these students selling in the village, shy freshman, and they get 10% commission. Do you think they sell all the $100 in produce that they have in their bag or not? So this kid goes and sells and goes to a house where they're having a birthday, and so they're going to bake some cake, so they need a lot of eggs, like the professor says. No mix over there. And so she gets an order. Can you give me seven of those trays? Yes. Okay, fine. So she runs to school because she's already calculating how much money she's going to make in her commission, and she comes back. She forgot where it was. She couldn't find the house. And 2 hours later, it looks like 2 years, 2 hours later, the professor went and found her. She's still like a zombie looking for the lost client. Do you think she'll ever forget that experience? So, new jobs, optimism, and not pessimism. You know why there's optimism? Because there's money. Money is a great motivator, particularly for the people that don't have the money. So if you have poor students who can be motivated in the good sense of the word through money, and you can combine education and learning and making money, it's not play junior achievement. It's for real. So always adult supervision and mentorship, connectivity to markets. This is a fancy farmer's market in the capital city. This is leaps from the rural areas. It's a mental leap more than the 300 kilometers. And the school will be financially self-sufficient. So now our Nike Foundation funding has ended. We are covering 50% of the operating budget, including depreciation, of the school this year, and in the next 2 years we will be 100% self-sufficiency, and we will have the poorest adolescent girls in the world, less than $1 a day, paying for their education through learning. We are dealing with critical factors for economic empowerment for girls. Education, every additional year of school increases income by 10 to 20%, and economic empowerment, job preparation and livelihoods, the reward for her and her family. We are creating a network worldwide because right now we have a team of Paraguayans in Tanzania working with the Sega School for Girls in Morogoro, and it's the same problem everywhere. In fact, I'm looking for volunteers to do it in the San Joaquin Valley. Whoever wants to do a self-sufficient school for poor San Joaquin Valley dwellers, contact me. It's going to be fun. But it's going to be like a cat and mouse thing with the state and the county and everything. And of course, we won't know if we're the cat or the mouse, but so this is a famous triple line: economic value, social value, and environmental value. So going back, the second girl to the left, Maricel, 17-year-old girl. Look at how she comes from. Look at where she comes from. And with education that pays for itself, this will be her graduation. Dignity, recovery of optimism for girls, jobs, money, employment. and becoming part of the middle class. So this is the dream I learned here in the San Joaquin Valley, in the city of Stockton. I hate that person that wrote that this was a miserable city. I don't respect that. That is a lack of respect. It's a lack of integrity. I cannot believe that somebody actually said that, because this is not miserable, and these are not miserable people. We have dignity in the San Joaquin Valley. We love what we do. We have problems, but we're not miserable. And so thank you very, very much for this opportunity to be with you today.